Well, hello everybody. I just happened to be checking my onions and I noticed that I had cut a red onion just a couple of days ago. And I put it in my plastic thing there to root it. And I noticed it's already got roots. I mean, it's putting out little sprouts at the top, barely. But the thing is already rooted. Look at that. And that's just from a couple of days. So I'm going to go ahead and take that out there this morning. And I'm going to plant it. Be careful not to break my roots off. But I've got a couple other ones up here that don't look too good. And I think it's because they weren't real fresh onions. Like this one doesn't look like it's going to do too much. I mean, it does have one root at the bottom, but I'm going to have to leave it in there for a while longer. So that just goes to show, if you get old onions, they might not root quite as fast. But if you get the new onion, it'll put out roots pretty fast. And what we're going to do is take it outside if I don't drop the camera. And we're going to plant it with our other onions. And I'm going to try to keep this thing turned toward me so I don't whip it around and make y'all dizzy. But I need to get my troll over here. Oh. Yeah, we got a good rain last night. It was raining all this morning. And I think we're supposed to get even more rain. Let's see what I can do here. Put it over here so you can see what I'm doing, maybe. But it looks like there might be just a little bit of room. Between some of these other onions that I'll be able to plant this one. I mean, look at that. That's amazing. Just in like 3 or 4 days. So, do your red onions too. I don't usually buy red onions too often, but I like them in salads and I like to cook them in certain things, so. I'm going to be planting them right along with my other onions. And you can see here, let's flip this around so I'm showing you. You can see right there, I did it just like I did the other onions. There's a red one. It's barely covered up, but I made a hole deep so those roots had somewhere to go. So I'm gonna have to start using some of these other onions, get them out of here so I can start my new onions. Yeah, when those things bulb up and they put out top growth like this and they start making onions, we can separate them, and then we'll be able to plant them separately to make a big onion. I also wanted to show you an update on my greenhouse. Like, there's my cabbage. And yes, definitely, this one down here is rooting. You can see right there, it's starting to grow. So I'll have 2 collards, tree collards. And there's my potatoes. Aren't they looking good? Show you my peas. That one's doing real good. And I've still got a couple of other sprigs. And another week or 2, if I need to, I'll go ahead and plant another couple of those peas. My leeks are still surviving and they're trying to grow. Yeah, I'm going to have to cover things up. I think Thursday or Friday it's supposed to get down to like 27. But there's my garlic, my Brussels sprouts. They're trying their best to grow. I mean, this is the time of year that they really want to grow. So, hopefully I'll be able to keep them covered up so none of them freeze. And garlic down there. But I wanted to come in here because I noticed some of my stuff in here needs to be, and I went ahead and set my little container out here. I wanted to check my and you know what? I forgot to bring my spray bottle. Let's go get that spray bottle because I wanted to show you what I did. I took one of those spray bottles that you get your laundry spot remover and stuff in. Rinsed it out real good. And then I put water in it. If I can go find it. Well, what did I do with it? I thought I must have taken it outside. If from one day to the next I could remember what I'm doing. I thought I had took it out here yesterday, but I may not have. I can't find it or what I did with it. Well, anyway, I put water in it, and it's just right to spray your bottles. I mean, I got plenty of water in the bottom, but if it gets dry on top, which it's plenty moist. I mean, it's plenty moist up there. But I was going to show you that if you needed to, you could take that spray bottle and just spray the top of them. Let me go get the key for the greenhouse, because I may have put it out there. Well, I found it. That wind is blowing something fierce today. But anyway, I wanted to show you that it's just a laundry pre-wash bottle that I rinsed out real good, washed it out, and I filled it with water. And if you need to spray the top just a tiny bit, just use your spray bottle. Because that dirt is plenty wet right now, but the very top of it may be a little bit dry. So just get your spray bottle and go over it. And that'll work. And it's been raining, like I said, all most of the night, most of the morning. And we'll probably get more rain today. But that's getting some sun right there. And tomorrow, when it's not raining, I'll move it outside. I just didn't want to put it in the house because I'm so limited with space. But there's my roses, and I do have to put water in them. Because you can see the water, well, you might not be able to see, but the water is basically dried up. So I'm just gonna, whoops, take my watering spout can and put some water back there. And I'm gonna do this other one the same way. If I can get over here to it without pouring it in the pot itself. Yeah, just put it right down right between your pots so it doesn't actually pour into your pot to disturb the dirt. And I need to do some of my roses too there. With this weather warming up like it has, some of my pots are starting to dry out a little bit. So I'm just simply gonna get some compost tea in my bucket or in my spout pot. And take it over here and water my rose bushes in there. And see, my potatoes, they need water too because they've been in the little greenhouse. They don't need much. But they do need a little bit. Let's see if I can get in here for this door. Oh. I need to go fill it up again. I'll be right back. Put a little bit in my dish pan down there where my onions are growing. Because like I said, it don't get rain in here, so. And my rose bush right there. And the excess will run out. I'm just going to leave that spray bottle right in here because this is where I'll be using it. Oh, put the camera down a minute. Put the lid back on this. But I also wanted to show you that I came out here, and since I had these other buckets already fixed, I pulled up some of the cabbage plants. I only left 1 or 2 plants in each one. Like there's 3 in that one, but one of them is kind of small. But I went ahead and transplanted them because I knew it was going to rain. Because I knew that would give them the best chance to survive. So that gives me 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 buckets with cabbage in it, green cabbage. And like I said, it did rain last night, so it kind of pushed down some of my plants. Those need to be transplanted pretty soon. And these are starting to leaf out, so I'll be able to transplant those pretty soon. That's carrots there. But even if I don't have enough cardboard, I'll be able to take bucket lids or tote lids and cover those other buckets up for when it freezes. I think it's Thursday night. And I'm going to go ahead and zip this back up. Oh, I did also wanted to wish y'all happy Valentine's Day. I forgot all about it being Valentine's Day. I started watching some videos this morning, and they were telling everybody happy Valentine's Day, and I said, well, I forgot about that. But I'm going to leave the cabbage and the potatoes out right now and let them soak up a little bit more sun right there. Unless it starts raining real hard, and then I'll put them back in the greenhouse. Yeah, but if you like red onions, go ahead and do your red onions just like the green onions. Plant some of them, root them. And here goes my buckets flying across the yard. Ooh. There's how much rain we got last night. The buckets are full. Let me step back a little bit. And what I'm going to do, put some in this bucket. Keep the wind from blowing it away. Look at that. That is some strong compost tea right there. And I don't know if you even saw that, but look there. That growth on those plants since I uncovered them from the cold weather. And that's trying to grow right there. That's Chinese cabbage. And that was Chinese cabbage. 2 little bitty plants in there. I don't know if it'll make it or not. And I think that's a winter squash. That little plant right there. Swiss chard. And my kale. And I think that's a Chinese cabbage or a Chinese lettuce or something. Oriental lettuce. And there goes my kale. So it's made it all through that freezing temperature, and it'll make it through Thursday too. And there goes some of my plants there. I think that was kale or cabbage. And those are looking real good. That looks like broccoli right there. But it's a small plant, so I'm not sure. And there, those two are looking good. Look how big that one's gotten. Oh, and also, you know, I told you that I took my potting soil bags, I put holes in the bottom, and I dug holes and I put the bag about a third of the way down in the ground. And then I folded the top over and I filled it full of my broken down wood, my cardboard, my scraps, my leaves. Some of it had potting soil in it. And I'm going to use them again this year. I did that pot the same way. It's buried in the ground with big holes so the roots of whatever I plant in that pot can go into the ground. And these I put out here yesterday. That's one there. It's got food scraps and all that stuff in it. And this one here. So that makes 5 so far. And I want to put a couple more out here, because I found it so much easier to keep your plants watered, to have them in some kind of container. But I wanted to have them to have the benefit of letting their roots go down in the ground. Because remember, I had a big okra plant, and there's the stalk from that okra bush. It's so big, I haven't been able to get it out of there. So I said, well, I'll just leave it. I'll plant around it. But that's what caused that okra plant to get so big last summer, was I was able to water it and just water it in the bag. So all the water stayed in that okra plant and it went down to the roots instead of spreading across the top of the ground. So I said, well, it worked good last year. I'm doing it again this year. Because I live in such a rocky area. It's very hard to dig holes in the ground big enough. And it's even hard to dig a hole as deep as I buried those bags. But I'm going to try a tomato there, because I've already got the stake put up there, a tall one. I'm going to try a tomato there and maybe one over there where I'll have that cage. And I think I'm going to put some kind of squash or zucchini in these other bags. But I need to get a couple of more out here. I was tired though after doing that, so I called it a day after I got those two down there and got them filled up. And I've got some that survived there and they weren't even covered up. They look kind of battered, but they're alive. And I think that was either some kind of oriental cabbage, kale, something in that line. I forgot what I put in there last summer, but it's still alive. And as soon as it warms up some, it'll start growing again. And I do need to take my hummingbird feeders down and clean them, because I think in March is when the hummingbirds come back. Well, that's when they come back here, because we have colder weather than places like California where they can grow so good. And look at that. There goes a moonflower plant coming up out of the ground from the old plant. So if you'll leave when you plant your moonflowers, if you do anything, just break the old dead growth off at the ground. Don't pull it up. That leaves the root in the ground. And that lets your new plants come up from the roots for the next year. So I'm anxious to see how many will come back up from last year. I still have a lot of twigs sticking up out of the ground from the plants that died off last year. But I don't know how many more is going to come up from the root. But I know that one is. But if they got enough water, sun, dirt, and all that to survive the winter, then they should come back up just like that one is. So once you plant moonflowers, you should not have to replant them every year. And you'll be able to get tons of seeds from them to start them somewhere else if you want to, because they should come back up. And it's early, so I'm surprised that that one's come up out of the ground so far. But yeah, that's a moonflower plant coming up. And remember last year I had this rock garden full of them. So I'm hoping they all come back up this year. And then I don't have to replant them. And I had some in these pots too that I just broke the tops off of and I left them. So I don't know if they're going to come back up or not. I'm waiting to see. I don't see anything yet. But I know my little rose bushes love this rain. They're still little, but hopefully they're going to do some growing this spring. Because they should be rooted real good and be able to grow and do something this year. Oh my goodness. My little angel's just falling apart. Look at that. It just fell apart. Put the pieces up there until I can do something with them later. But look at that. My poor angel just came apart. He just fell apart from about the waist down. I'll have to buy some more statues. But I've had that one for many years, so it got... Sometimes that concrete gets wet a lot, or that plaster Paris, whatever they make them out of, and it comes apart after years. But I still got my owl and my cat. And I probably need to buy me some posts and shore up this wishing well. I built it out of kind of small lumber because that's all I had. But in the ideal world, it should have had, you know, the 4x4 inch post put in it. And you can see all my rose bushes are doing good. They've been planted for several years, so I'm not worried about them. My mint's coming back out in that pot. Yeah, I decided to move one of the pots over here. Put it in that little white planter. My mint's coming back here, but you know, if it gets down as cold as it's supposed to get Thursday night, it might kill off that new growth again, but it'll still come back. Rose bushes. My rose bush there. And I don't know, I think these were the type of mums that are not going to come back. Or they might. That looks like some green growth right there. So I'll leave it there and we'll see. Yep, there's some over there. So I guess they're coming back. Don't know about this one either. Because you know, we planted those in these pots last summer. I don't know about this one. I don't see anything yet. But that don't mean it's not coming back. We'll just have to wait and see. My white rose bushes are still doing good. Oh, and there's my little buddy. He had to come see me today. Not sure what that is coming up in there, but there's some kind of little plants coming up in there. Maybe some seed that I had put in there that I forgot about. Because that's kind of what I do. I plant stuff in a pot, I put seed in it, it never comes up, so then I put something else in it. And then after the other thing grows and starts dying off, the seeds come up. So I'm going to wait and see what those are before I pull them out. I'm not sure what that is. We'll see. We'll find out. Isn't that a pretty cat? He's sweet. But I went ahead and I did go ahead and put a peppermint plant in this pot, because I think it'll be pretty when it just fills up and just kind of hangs over the rocks and everything. I think it'll be real pretty there this summer. I don't know of a better spot to have put it, so. Yeah, I'm right here, sweetie. I'm right here. He's a sweetheart. Yes, he is. Yeah, he's a sweetheart. Gonna make the people dizzy. Be walking around with this camera. And there's all the new growth coming out on my clematis. Like I said the other day, this is the one that puts out new growth on the old stems. So if you plant clematis, if you don't already know, wait till it starts growing the next season before you pull anything out, because you may have one that grows on the old vine. Like those. This one I think grows on the new vine. But these two out here on this arbor, they both grow on the old vine. So if you pull what you think is a dead vine out, you're pulling off your new growth for the next season. Because see that? That's all new growth on the old vine. See how it does? And some may come up from the roots, but most of it comes up from that old vine. I'm trying to find some more. See there? Right there. Well, where'd it go? Right there. That's all new growth right there on the old vine. And I got some strawberry seeds yesterday in the mail that I had ordered. I got another tomato seed. And we planted the Tiny Tim, I think. Or did we? I think that's what we planted in that. No, that was lettuce. But I got Tiny Tim dwarf tomatoes that only are supposed to get about 12 to 14 inches tall, but I've heard some people say, depending on the soil you put them in, that they can get 3 to 4 feet tall. So I'm going to have those this year whenever I get them started. So, isn't that right? And my little buddy's going to help me plant. Yes, he is. He's going to help me plant stuff this year. Yeah. Yes, he is. Well, I'm trying to get the camera on him, and I'm moving it so much that I know I'm going to make everybody dizzy that's watching this video. Yeah. He keeps running around. There he goes. Yeah, that wind is really blowing today. Greenhouse does not like all that blowing around. And it looks like I've got a hole torn in the top of my tarp up there. Or something is up on it, I'm not sure which. Can't see it from this side. So I don't know if it's something stuck up there, but it looks like a tear up there. Yeah, that's what it is. It's a tear. And I tried to tape up that point up there so it wouldn't cut through. I think that's what happened to the greenhouse plastic. It poked through. And I tried taping it up, covering it up so it wouldn't go through the tarp, but it looks like it's still going to do it. Now I got 2 radishes growing. 2 little radishes. Look at there. Whoa, I'm making myself dizzy. Yeah, he's taking a tour with me. And we definitely got to get out here and put leaves to this compost pile. I just haven't got encouraged to get out here and do any raking yet. But you can see all my pots are looking good. They're ready for planting. All I have to do is add a little soil or some compost and I'll be able to plant something else this summer. Because some of that stuff in these totes, you know, they haven't been there that long, and a lot of it's probably not even completely broke down in there yet. And like I did those new totes, you can always put your dirt in, take a trowel or something that you can dig with, dig you a trench down in your tote, and put more food scraps down in there and just cover it up. That's what I've been doing. That's the reason I haven't been putting anything else in my compost bin here, is because I've been adding it directly to my pots and my buckets that I'm going to plant in this summer. I've just been adding table scraps to the totes and buckets. Just dig a hole, put it in there, and cover it up. Doesn't take much. And then in a couple of weeks when we get ready to plant, that stuff will be broke down enough that it's going to make good plant food for your new spring plants that you put in. I had already put table scraps and stuff in these buckets that I just transplanted my cabbage. And like I said, I only did that because there's enough clearance from the dirt to the top of the bucket that I can easily cover it up with something Thursday night to keep any of that from freezing. I saved all my tote lids so I can cover up some of them with those if I don't have quite enough plastic to cover them up. And I'm just anxious to see if my moringa tree is going to come back out this year. I'm hoping it was big enough and it put enough roots down this time that the tree survived. Because it goes dormant every winter and then it comes back to life in the spring. So we'll see. And the same way with my raspberry bush here. It goes dormant, looks like it's dead in the wintertime, and then it comes back to life in the springtime. So I'm hoping it survived. Because I already lost my blackberry bush. It didn't make it. Because it didn't come back last year. But that raspberry bush did. And it puts out berries on the old growth. So the first year you plant it, you may not get berries, but the second year, do not cut your bush back, because your berries will come on that old growth. I didn't know that the first summer I had it, and it got so big I trimmed it back. And that next summer, the only place that it tried to put out berries was on the old growth. Anywhere I had left a limb from the previous year, that's the only place it put out or tried to put out berries. So this year I'm not cutting it back. I'm leaving it alone, and I'm going to see what happens. That peppermint looks good. And like I said, they're trying to come out because we've had these 65-degree temperature days in between these freezes. And the poor plants don't know whether to grow or to stay underground or what to do. So they've been trying to come back to life, but I can't imagine what the freeze Thursday night's going to do if it gets down to 26 or 27 degrees. Because that's definitely freezing. So that's basically what I wanted to get on here and show you today, or tell you about. Go ahead and put table scraps in your pots, your totes. Dig a hole, put it in, cover it up. And if you can, do it to each one, or do it to every one that you can between now and spring. I don't know how many buckets or totes you got. But, yeah, just go around and put more table scraps, a little bit in each one. And then they're going to be ready to go by the springtime when you plant your plants. Yeah, I ended up, I don't think, with anything in these left. I didn't cover them up, really. So I'll replant in those this spring. And I don't know about my honeysuckle. I don't know if that's going to come back to life or not. But like I said, I'm going to leave it there and find out. And my clematis is hanging on. I've been keeping that in the house. Oh, you can see how hard the wind is blowing. And it's trying to put out seeds up here. If I could gather some of the seeds, I could start plants. Because I saw last year where some of the seeds fell over in the yard, and it actually started growing a plant in the yard. But it was before it turned cold. And there's my little insolent plant going to town. It's just growing and growing. Isn't that pretty? It's going to make a pretty plant. And I did put peppermint in this pot on the porch. I think that'll look pretty with it hanging over the side of the pot this summer. Never can keep it exactly level. And my aloe vera. Almost time for my birds to come back and nest. I'm going to put this one up here this year too, so I'm hoping they'll nest in this one as well. Well, they'll at least nest in one of them. So we'll see. Yeah, I'm waiting because I'm trying to think. Seems like I'm forgetting something. Yeah, you can transplant any of your little seedlings that have come up in a pot or a tote that you will be able to cover up between now and spring if we get another freeze, which I know we are going to get one Thursday. So, but you can transplant them right now if they're big enough. But just make sure you're putting them in something that you're going to be able to cover them over to protect them if you get freezes in your area between now and spring. Don't forget to put your food scraps in your buckets and your totes. Start your seedlings if you've got any place that you can put a tray of seeds. But you have to keep them protected. That's one reason I went ahead and just set mine in my greenhouse. They're not going to get a lot of sun. They'll get some sun in there, but not a bunch. But once they start sprouting out, I'll move them out in the sun. Some people put their seedlings in old refrigerators and just close the door. They don't ever get sun in there, but they germinate, they start sprouting, and once they sprout out, they take them out of that refrigerator and put them in bigger pots and set them out in the yard. Or they set them out in the yard first, let them grow a little bit, and then they transplant them into a bigger pot. Sometimes it depends on the plant. You have to let it get a little bigger before you can transplant it in your yard. And some of them you can just transplant from that little seedling pot right into your totes or your 5-gallon buckets. Just depends on what it is. I've never tried it, putting it in an old refrigerator, because it's not plugged in or anything. It's just dark. It holds the moisture, kind of like a greenhouse. And the seeds will germinate in there fast. And like I said, once they germinate and they start to sprout out, you can just take them out and put them in the sun. So with that, I'm going to wish everybody a happy Valentine's Day. Please share, like, and subscribe to my videos. Y'all have a blessed day. I will see you on my next one.